And now it's time for a special edition of Lefties Losing It. Let us take a moment and marvel in awe at President-elect Donald Trump's top 5 selections so far for his cabinet and other high-ranking administration positions. Coming in at number 5 is CIA Director John Ratcliffe. And this selection matters, folks. For more than a decade, we've seen these institutions become weaponised to attack conservatives, not just Donald Trump. And John Ratcliffe's performance in exposing and destroying former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok was a thing of beauty.
The approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump, go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did. Agent Strzok, are you starting to understand why some folks out there don't believe a word you say, and why it's especially troubling that you, of all people, are at the center of the 3 highest profile investigations in recent times that involve President Trump, and that you were in charge of an investigation investigating, gathering evidence against Donald Trump, a subject that you hated, that you wanted to F him, to stop him, to impeach him? And do you see why that might call into question everything you've touched on all of those investigations? At
number 4, we have possibly the selection that has had the biggest reaction, the biggest freak out from the left, and that's Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Here is some of his finest work.
Like, why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb.
Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
Yes, we're going to enjoy the next few years. And after what the FBI and Department of Justice did in trying to frame and defame Gaetz personally with nonsense allegations, I could not think of a better person to go scorched earth. The American people voted for a reckoning, and a reckoning they shall have. Now to the number 3 best Trump selection thus far. And it's a woman who not long ago was running to be president as a Democrat. But the Democrats didn't want her. She was too honest, too normal, too patriotic. And let's not forget how she ended Kamala's first run to be president.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Kamala never recovered. Now to the number 2 selection, another pick that had the left losing it and beclowning themselves by slamming a man with superb credentials. It's Trump's Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth. First to the meltdown.
He also picked, you ready? Co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Not even like regular. Weekend. Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete Hegseth. And he's picked him to be U.S. Secretary of Defense. Now, MAGA supporters and detractors are trying to figure out what? Because of this pick.
Not a single MAGA supporter is trying to figure it out. You are projecting again, Whoopi, and learn to pronounce his name. He rates better than you, even on the weekend. And we can all say your made-up name, Karen. Yes, Whoopi's real name is Karen Elaine Johnson. But I digress. Let's get back to her bad-mouthing a veteran with an exemplary record.
Is this the guy who's qualified to make decisions about the most powerful military in the world, who clearly does not know anything about the military?
You know, and also I feel insulted. I'm a morning TV host, and I've been here the longest.
Yes.
Where's my ambassadorship to Italy, Donald?
Such miserable fools, and they weren't alone. Here is Democrat Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, having a go. She wrote, "A Fox and Friends weekend co-host is not qualified to be the Secretary of Defence. I lead the Senate Military Personnel Panel. All three of my brothers served in uniform. I respect every one of our service members." Then you need to apologise to Pete Hegseth, who is not only a veteran with 20 years of service, but a double Bronze Star recipient, and is also an Ivy League educated Harvard, Princeton. The folks who are celebrating these appointments have a problem with Pete Hegseth because he transitioned to the media. Would they prefer if he transitioned to a they-them? I'm sure Pete Hegseth won't be okay with Chinese spy balloons floating across the country, or the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan and then the killing of an innocent Afghani family in a botched revenge operation. He is ready to clean up the mess.
Well, first of all, you got to fire, you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke, it's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. And that's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
And the number one selection thus far for the Trump team are the heads of the Department of Government Efficiency, the smartest men in any room, the duo of Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. This is what we can expect. Here is Vivek last year.
And large-scale mass layoffs are absolutely what we will bring to the D.C. bureaucracy, both because it is necessary and it is sanctioned by the law of the United States of America.
And we all know Elon's uncompromising style by now.
There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger
I hope
today.
they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
Go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Let's discuss some of these Trump selections. It's clear his second term will be markedly different from the first. It's clear his transition team has been working for months now to put this team together. The selection of Ratcliffe for CIA director is significant. The lawfare, the weaponization of the CIA is a focus for Trump's base, and so too the selection of Matt Gaetz as AG, Kosha. This is exciting times for the Trump base.
You know, the biggest criticism of Trump in the first term was personnel, and he fell into, even though he wanted to drain the swamp, he fell into the tried and tested model of Washington types because he was told and warned they'll never get confirmation in the Senate and, work with them. And personnel is policy. So a lot of his supporters are really waiting to see how is this one going to be different. He's been sending shock waves in the last 48 hours through the swamp and others. And what's interesting is the picks that he's made so far, they do have to go through Senate confirmation. So we'll see how that plays out because there still is that civil war in the GOP-controlled Senate.
Yes.
But they're all very young. They're in their 40s, pretty much all of them. They're populists. They subscribe to the MAGA America First philosophy on everything from economics to foreign policy and the rest of it. So interesting times. Buckle up.
And this is what a lot of the commentators don't understand. They keep talking about Trump's just picking people who are going to be loyal to him. No, it's loyal to the agenda which the American people voted for. Mm-hmm. So his base, his supporters want that. They don't want people in there who are going to be obstructing, who are going to be Republicans in name only. Mm-hmm. That's precisely what they have voted against. And this tweet from J.D. Vance just on that Matt Gaetz selection is very interesting. He wrote, "The main issue with Matt Gaetz is that he used his office to prosecute his political opponents and authorise federal agents to harass parents who were peacefully protesting at school board meetings. Oh, wait, that's actually Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General." And that's a point that, again, the bulk of the media don't seem to understand. They're just so outraged by these selections. They don't understand what's led us to this point.
Yes, that was a shot across the bow to the Senate, newly elected Senate Majority Leader, Thune, and there was a bit of infighting going on whether Rick Scott, the more populist Trump loyalist, would make it or Thune did. Thune is of the old guard, but he had to fight to get that because he was challenged. And then he came out and put a statement out that I will do everything I can to confirm all of Trump's picks. And then right after that, Trump started dropping these bombshells like Matt Gaetz. So I think what JD's doing there is reminding him that, you know, you did commit to that. And if you were so quick to nominate people or confirm people like Merrick Garland, let's not clutch our pearls for somebody like Matt Gaetz.
Absolutely. And on that blow, because it is certainly a blow for the Trump team not to get the Senate leader. They wanted Rick Scott. He's on side. He's going to deliver their agenda. The man they have now, tell me a little bit more about him. He is very much mistrusted and it was a closed ballot. And I think that is a problem in itself. Why isn't there transparency so people know who the person they elected voted for?
Yes, I think transparency is going to be a big theme coming in, from declassification to pushing more open and out in the public view votes. Because people are fed up with the smoky backroom deals that happen. Now, Senator Thune, he's from South Dakota, ruby red state, but it's been funny, people in the lead up to this were recirculating tweets of his back from 16 and others, so he had a lot of anti-Trump tweets out there. He sort of was a protege of Mitch McConnell, who the Trump faction does not particularly care for. So, you know, he comes with some baggage to the Trump crowd, but at this point in time, he and the establishment Republicans are on the back foot. Trump has a spectrum of dominance right now, and he's going to use that.
Absolutely. Now, let's compare the Biden administration's border czar, Kamala Harris, with Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan. See if you can spot the subtle difference.
Up with education, down with deportation. Up with education, down with deportation.
I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law. You better start packing now.
We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I hear a lot of people say, you know, the talk of a mass deportation is racist. It's threatening to the immigrant community. It's not threatening to the immigrant community. It should be threatening to the illegal immigrant community.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Yeah, just deport the whole family. Big difference there. This was possibly the #1 issue, right up there with the economy, if not bigger. And the base is going to expect to see these deportations. It's going to be a core promise that has to be fulfilled.
And it is going to be met with opposition, the likes of which we have never seen from including the rhinos in the own party. There's going to be rogue judges out there banning, as they did before, issuing injunctions that affect the whole state. The media is going to be showing sob stories of families being separated and all of that. So you need somebody with a lot of spine and the stones to push forward with that. Certainly Trump, but all the way down. And Tim Homan seems to be that person. He never pulls any punches. He was the ICE director. So he's been on the front lines literally seeing what has been happening with the joke of the U.S. southern border that it's become. So he will push ahead, but every step of the way is still going to be a fight on this.
Now, the Democrats have really kicked an own goal in attacking Pete Hegseth. They are attacking a veteran with a stellar record. And to see the likes of Whoopi Goldberg and Elizabeth Warren attack this man is a terrible look, Kosha. He is picking outsiders. He is picking people that you don't expect to see, but they're going to deliver his agenda, and that is the whole game here.
They're being very disingenuous with Pete Hegseth because the thing that they were trying to make go viral, and I think they got ratioed, is he's a Fox News weekend co-host. So they were trying to diminish him. Not all of us in the media are only solely doing that. He has many other things in his portfolio. He is an actual warrior who served for 20 years in the U.S. military, 2 active deployments in combat zones of Iraq and Afghanistan. We've moved away from this, where in the past it used to be actual warriors and soldiers commanded the army and not people sitting behind cushy desks in D.C. He ticks that box. And by the way, he also graduated from Princeton and Harvard for the credentialists who want to mock his intelligence by diminishing him as just a weekend co-host. So it's very interesting. He is a young guy, again, very different profile than who's typically in there. But to diminish him is disingenuous because he clearly has leadership skills.
And he also clearly knows what's the problem, what are the problems within the bureaucracy that he has to fix. He's spoken about that at length. And I think it's just a very smart choice. He's likeable, he's capable, he's young, he's got a lot going for him. And someone else who ticks all those boxes and who Trump has nominated is a former Democrat Congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard. She's going to serve as Director of National Intelligence. Amazing, Kosha, because not long ago the left were trying to defame her as some sort of a traitor. Now she's
an agent of Russia. She was, and she has a lawsuit out, I think, against the Clintons. It's been long-standing. She was a rising star in the Democrat Party. Female, veteran. She was given very senior positions early on when she got elected, and the transformation from that to leaving the party, to being an independent, to supporting Trump, and then actually converting officially to the party and now being in the cabinet, should she get confirmation from the Senate, is a great story arc, a mini story arc under the Trump story arc. And the other thing, too, is she's a veteran, but she is solidly anti-war unless it is of direct, provable, tangible, visible benefit to the national interest of America. And a lot of the wars that we've engaged in do not fulfill that. So that's going to be a very interesting shakeup. And she knows of what she speaks, having actually served in combat.
Absolutely. And so many Americans who have great respect for the military would agree with that position wholeheartedly. They're not anti-military, they're just anti-Americans being involved in these forever wars with no clear goals. Let's talk about the revelations here that Kamala Harris's campaign paid $500,000 to the charity run by Reverend Al Sharpton, who also hosts a show on MSNBC. So just weeks before she sat down with Sharpton for a really pitiful softball interview, even by Kamala's standards, she had handed over this $500,000 donation to this charity, which in itself is rather shady. We won't get into that. But there was no disclosure, absolutely no disclosure, even by MSNBC's very, very low standards. There's got to be some sort of an accountability for what happened here.
You know, there's been this undercurrent of questioning whether there's support from the media in kind, even if it's not explicitly in cash, although here there's even cash. It'll be interesting to see in a court of law whether those things go anywhere, and if anyone's going to prosecute it or not, I don't know. But at least the appearance of impropriety doesn't help. On top of the fact that she raised $1 billion, as we've talked about before, and is now at a deficit of $20 million because she's paying $500,000 here, $1 million to Oprah, who knows what she paid to Beyonce, and I don't think she has much to show for it.
Well, no, and it was just completely having zero care for the money people donated. And some of these donations, yeah, they're from billionaires, but some would have been from everyday mum and dads who can ill afford to donate to a political cause, but they had, God knows why. And she spends $100,000 building a set that looks like it costs $5 in a hotel room for Call Her Daddy. It just shows you what disdain the Democrats have for other people's money. This is a good story. I love this one. Have a look at this. This is Kamala Harris and Jill Biden. And see if you can detect the pure hatred here. They're sitting together for Veterans Day commemorations in the Capitol. Watch as they fail to interact in any way. Kamala looks over a few times, but Jill is not having it, gives her nothing. And when you look at what happened before Kamala sat down, you see that Jill does not even acknowledge her. Kamala comes in, she's greeting people, she takes her seat, And Jill did not even acknowledge a woman who, a few days ago, she was supposedly endorsing full-heartedly. Look at the smiles, though, when Donald Trump visited the White House earlier today. Jill, Joe, Donald, they look like the best of friends. Look at that. I've never seen them so happy. Interesting interaction. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but there are long-running rumours that there's a fracture there. Jill Biden doesn't like Kamala, vice versa, and it certainly looked like it there.
We may be reading into it, but analyzing Jill Biden in the last 2 weeks has become a genre unto itself on Twitter, from the fact that she wore red on Election Day to cast her vote. Maybe something, maybe nothing, but it definitely sparked a lot of rumors because typically the Democrats wear blue. She's wearing red or dark pink in that photo right there. And then the stone cold demeanor with Kamala that you just showed, and then smiling, the biggest smile ever with Trump. You know, it definitely creates an interesting narrative that we can have fun with. And it's backed up by a little bit of substance in that it's easy to imagine that the Bidens do feel snubbed and scorned with how they were treated and pushed out at the 11th hour. So it's not hard to believe.
Coup. You can understand. And you talked about Joe Biden and him in recent days being so happy. I haven't seen him this happy for years, literally for the whole 4-year term. It's hard to think of a time where he's just got that big smile on his face. I don't know whether it's just the pressure's lifted and he can just enjoy the final months of his lame duck presidency, or what it is, but he seems to be a changed man. Kosher Gator, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Pleasure.